Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into our Reddit cheating stories. Which part of the world are you watching from? Drop in a comment and subscribe. Thanks. Let's dive in. My name is Mark, and for the better part of a decade, Sarah was my world. We met in college, a whirlwind romance fueled by late-night study sessions, cheap pizza, and a shared dream of building a life together. We were the picture of young love, two peas in a pod ready to conquer the world. We married 5 years after graduation, bought a charming little house with a white picket fence, the whole 9 yards, and settled into a comfortable routine. Sarah worked as a marketing manager for a large tech company, a high-pressure job that demanded long hours and constant travel. I, on the other hand, worked as a high school history teacher. I loved the order of the academic year, the energy of the students, and the feeling that I was making a difference, however small, in their lives. Our lives were different, but they complemented each other. Or, at least, that's what I thought. Things started to shift subtly about a year ago. Sarah became more distant, harder to reach. Her business trips became more frequent, her explanations vaguer. When I asked her about her day, her answers were short, clipped. She used to tell me everything, sharing funny anecdotes about her colleagues, venting about her boss, or excitedly describing a new marketing campaign. Now, she barely mentioned work at all. I, of course, noticed. I tried to talk to her about it, but she brushed my concerns aside. "I'm just stressed, Mark," she'd say, her voice tight. "Work is crazy right now. You know how it is." I wanted to believe her. I truly did. I loved her, and the thought of anything being wrong between us was unbearable. So, I pushed my doubts down, chalked it up to work stress, and tried to be more supportive. I cooked her favorite meals, ran bubble baths, and offered massages, hoping to ease her tension. But the distance remained. It was like a wall had been erected between us, a barrier I couldn't penetrate. We still slept in the same bed, but we felt miles apart. The intimacy we once shared, the easy laughter and genuine connection, had faded into a polite, perfunctory routine. One Saturday morning, I decided to surprise Sarah by cleaning her car. She had a company car, a sleek, silver SUV that she meticulously maintained. I knew she hated clutter, so I thought I'd do her a favor and tidy it up. I grabbed my cleaning supplies and headed out to the garage. As I opened the car door, a wave of stale air and a faint, unfamiliar cologne hit me. It wasn't Sarah's usual perfume. It was musky and distinctly masculine. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach. I started with the front seat, tossing out empty coffee cups and crumpled receipts. Then, I moved to the back. It was surprisingly clean, except for a small, black gym bag tucked under the seat. Curiosity, or perhaps a more insidious feeling, compelled me to reach for it. I pulled the bag out and unzipped it. Inside, I found a pair of men's running shoes, a worn-out t-shirt, and a water bottle. They weren't mine. My heart pounded in my chest. The air in the garage suddenly felt thick and suffocating. I rifled through the bag again, as if hoping I had somehow misidentified the items. But there was no mistake. The shoes were a size 11, at least 2 sizes bigger than my own. The t-shirt, a faded blue, was clearly not something I would ever wear. I sat back on my heels, the gym bag clutched in my hands, and stared blankly at the garage floor. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. A cold dread seeped into my bones. This couldn't be happening. Not to me. Not to us. I knew, deep down, what this meant. The gym bag, the cologne, the distance, the lies, it all pointed to one devastating conclusion: Sarah was cheating on me. The confirmation, however, came in the form of a small, rectangular box tucked at the very bottom of the gym bag. It was a condom wrapper. Used. The world went silent. The sound of the birds chirping in the backyard, the distant hum of traffic, the whir of the refrigerator in the kitchen, all of it faded away, replaced by a deafening roar in my ears. My breath caught in my throat. My hands started to shake. A wave of nausea washed over me. I felt like I had been punched in the gut, the wind knocked out of me, leaving me gasping for air. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, staring at the condom wrapper, the reality of the situation crashing down on me with the force of a tidal wave. The woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, had betrayed me in the most intimate and devastating way imaginable. I don't know how long I sat there in the garage, paralyzed by shock and disbelief. Eventually, I managed to pull myself together, driven by a mixture of anger, hurt, and a desperate need for answers. I gathered the evidence, the gym bag, the shoes, the t-shirt, the condom wrapper, and placed them carefully on the kitchen table. Then, I waited. The wait was excruciating. Every minute felt like an hour. I paced the living room, replaying every moment of the past year in my mind, searching for clues, for signs I had missed. Had I been blind? Had I been too trusting? Had I been a fool? Finally, I heard the familiar sound of Sarah's car pulling into the driveway. My heart leaped into my throat. My hands clenched into fists. I forced myself to take a deep breath and tried to compose myself. I needed to stay calm, to think clearly. Sarah walked in, her face bright and cheerful. "Hey, honey. I'm home," she called out, tossing her purse onto the hallway table. She walked into the kitchen, her smile faltering slightly when she saw me standing there, my face grim, my eyes fixed on her. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice laced with a hint of apprehension. I didn't say anything. Instead, I gestured towards the kitchen table. Her eyes followed my hand, landing on the gym bag and its contents. Her face paled. What is this?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "You tell me, Sarah," I said, my voice low and controlled. "Whose gym bag is this? Whose shoes? Whose t-shirt?" She didn't answer. Her eyes darted around the room, as if searching for an escape route. "I found them in your car," I continued, my voice rising slightly. "In your company car, Sarah. The car you use for business trips." Still, she remained silent. Her silence was an admission. "And this," I said, picking up the condom wrapper and holding it out to her, "this is the icing on the cake, isn't it? This confirms everything, doesn't it?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "Mark. She began, her voice trembling. "Don't," I said, cutting her off. "Don't even try to lie to me. Just tell me the truth. Who is he?" She finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. It just happened," she choked out. "It was a mistake. A stupid, terrible mistake." "Who is he, Sarah?" I repeated, my voice hardening. She hesitated for a moment, then whispered, "His name is David. He's a colleague at work." David. The name felt like a punch to the gut. I knew David. He had been to our house for dinner a few times. I had considered him a friend. "David?" I asked, my voice incredulous. "David from work? You're having an affair with David?" She nodded, her face buried in her hands. Rage surged through me, a burning, consuming fire. I wanted to scream, to shout, to break things. But I forced myself to remain calm, to control my emotions. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated again, then said, "About 6 months." 6 months. Half a year. All those lies, all those excuses, all that deception. 6 months, I repeated, my voice flat. 6 months of lying to me, of sneaking around behind my back, of betraying everything we built together. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry, Mark," she sobbed. "I never meant for this to happen. I love you. I still love you." Her words sounded hollow, empty. They meant nothing. "Don't," I said again, my voice cold and hard. "Don't say you love me. You don't know what love is. Love is trust, love is honesty, love is respect. You've shown me none of those things." I turned away from her, unable to bear the sight of her face. The pain was too intense, the betrayal too deep. "I want you to leave," I said, my voice trembling. "I want you to pack your things and leave. I don't want to see you again." She gasped, her eyes wide with shock. "Mark, please. Don't do this. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix, Sarah," I said, my voice unwavering. "You broke it. You destroyed it. And I can't forgive you. I won't forgive you. I walked out of the kitchen, leaving her standing there, sobbing alone. I went into the bedroom and slammed the door shut. I leaned against the door, my body shaking, tears streaming down my face. My marriage was over. My life was shattered. And I had no idea what I was going to do. The next few days were a blur of pain, anger, and disbelief. Sarah moved out, taking with her a suitcase full of clothes and a lifetime of memories. The house felt empty and cold without her, a shell of what it once was. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything. I called in sick to work, unable to face my students, unable to pretend that everything was normal. I spent my days wandering around the house, replaying the events of the past few days over and over in my mind. I couldn't understand how this had happened. How could the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, have betrayed me so cruelly? I was angry at Sarah, of course. I was furious at her for lying to me, for cheating on me, for destroying our marriage. But I was also angry at myself. Angry for being so blind, so trusting, so naive. I called my best friend, Tom, and told him everything. He was shocked and supportive, offering words of comfort and reassurance. He came over to my house and we spent the evening talking, drinking beer, and trying to make sense of it all. Tom was a bachelor, a free spirit who had never settled down. He had always envied my relationship with Sarah, the stability and happiness we seemed to share. Now, he looked at me with pity in his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Mark," he said, his voice sincere. "I can't imagine what you're going through." "I feel like my whole world has been turned upside down," I said, my voice hoarse. "I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am anymore." "You're still you, Mark," Tom said, putting a hand on my shoulder. "You're still the same kind, intelligent, and caring guy I've always known. This doesn't change that. It doesn't define you." His words offered a small measure of comfort, but the pain remained. I knew it would take time to heal, to move on. The next day, I called a lawyer and started the divorce proceedings. It was a difficult decision, but I knew it was the right one. There was no going back. The trust was broken, the damage irreparable. The divorce was messy and painful. There were arguments over property, finances, and everything else. Sarah fought me every step of the way, begging me to reconsider, promising to change. But I remained firm in my decision. Eventually, we reached a settlement. I kept the house, and she got a significant portion of our savings. It wasn't fair, but I didn't care. I just wanted it to be over. The day the divorce was finalized was one of the worst days of my life. I felt like I had lost everything. My wife, my best friend, my future. I spent the evening alone in the house, drinking a bottle of whiskey and staring at the walls. I was filled with a deep sense of loneliness and despair. I wondered if I would ever be happy again. If I would ever find love again. If I would ever be able to trust anyone again. As the weeks turned into months, I slowly began to pick up the pieces of my life. I started going back to work, throwing myself into my teaching. The routine helped, providing a sense of normalcy and purpose. I also started exercising again, going to the gym regularly and running in the park. Physical activity helped to clear my head and release some of the pent-up anger and frustration. Tom encouraged me to get out and socialize, to meet new people. He dragged me to bars, parties, and sporting events, forcing me to interact with the world again. At first, I resisted. I didn't want to meet new people. I didn't want to talk about my divorce. I just wanted to be alone. But Tom persisted, and eventually, I relented. I started going out with him, reluctantly at first, but gradually, I began to enjoy myself. I met some interesting people, both men and women. I even went on a few dates, but nothing serious. I wasn't ready for a relationship. I was still too hurt, too scarred. One day, I was at a coffee shop, reading a book, when a woman approached me. She was tall, with long, dark hair and piercing blue eyes. She had a warm smile and an open, friendly demeanor. "Excuse me," she said, her voice soft and melodic. "I couldn't help but notice what you're reading. It's one of my favorite books." I looked up at her, surprised. "Oh, really?" I said, feeling a flicker of interest. "What do you like about it?" We started talking about the book, and then about other books, and then about our lives. Her name was Emily, and she was a librarian. She was intelligent, articulate, and passionate about literature. We talked for hours that day, and I found myself drawn to her. She was easy to talk to, and she listened attentively to everything I said. She didn't judge me, didn't offer unsolicited advice, didn't try to fix me. She just listened. We exchanged phone numbers and promised to stay in touch. I left the coffee shop feeling lighter than I had felt in months. Over the next few weeks, Emily and I started spending more time together. We went to movies, museums, and concerts. We took long walks in the park and had picnics by the lake. I found myself opening up to her, sharing my thoughts, my feelings, my fears. I told her about my marriage, about my divorce, about the pain and betrayal I had experienced. She listened patiently, without interrupting, without judging. When I was finished, she simply took my hand and said, "I'm so sorry, Mark." That must have been incredibly difficult. Her empathy and understanding were a balm to my wounded soul. I felt safe with her, secure, and accepted. Slowly, gradually, I began to heal. The pain didn't disappear entirely, but it lessened. The anger subsided. The bitterness faded. I started to see the world in a new light. I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could be happy again. That maybe, just maybe, I could find love again. One evening, as we were sitting on a park bench, watching the sunset, I turned to Emily and said, "I've been thinking a lot about you lately." She looked at me, her eyes filled with warmth and affection. "Me too," she said. "I know it's probably too soon," I continued, my voice hesitant. "And I know I'm still carrying a lot of baggage. But I can't help but feel like there's something special between us." She smiled and took my hand. "I feel it too, Mark," she said. "I think we have something very special." I leaned in and kissed her. It was a gentle, tender kiss, full of promise and hope. In that moment, I knew that I was ready to move on. Ready to let go of the past and embrace the future. Ready to open my heart to love again. My relationship with Emily progressed slowly and steadily. We took our time, getting to know each other, building trust, and laying a solid foundation for our future. I was cautious at first, afraid of getting hurt again. Afraid of making the same mistakes. But Emily was patient and understanding, reassuring me that she wasn't Sarah, that she wouldn't betray me. She helped me to see that not all women are the same, that not all relationships are doomed to fail. She showed me that it was possible to love again, to trust again, to be happy again. A year after we started dating, I proposed to Emily. We were on vacation in Italy, standing on a balcony overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. The sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and pink. I got down on one knee, pulled out a ring, and said, "Emily, you are the most amazing woman I have ever met. You are kind, intelligent, beautiful, and compassionate. You have brought so much joy and happiness into my life. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as she nodded and said, "Yes, Mark. Yes, I will marry you." We embraced, kissing and crying, filled with joy and gratitude. We got married 6 months later, in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. It was the happiest day of my life. As I stood at the altar, gazing into Emily's eyes, I knew that I had finally found my soulmate. I had found someone who loved me for who I was, someone who accepted me with all my flaws and imperfections, someone who would never betray me. The divorce from Sarah was a painful and devastating experience, but it ultimately led me to Emily. It taught me valuable lessons about love, trust, and forgiveness. It made me a stronger, more resilient person. I don't regret my marriage to Sarah. We had some good times together, and I learned a lot from her. But I'm grateful that it ended, because it paved the way for me to find true happiness with Emily. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, of triumphs and tragedies. But what matters most is how we respond to those challenges. Do we let them defeat us, or do we learn from them and emerge stronger and wiser? I chose to learn from my experience, to move forward with hope and optimism, and to embrace the future with open arms. And I am so glad that I did. Because I found a love that is deeper, more meaningful, and more fulfilling than anything I could have ever imagined. And that, my friends, is the silver lining to my story. The unexpected blessing that came from a painful and devastating experience. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a brighter future. And that sometimes, the greatest gifts come from the most unexpected places. That's it for today's story. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more amazing content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.